Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to our Why Strategies Fail webinar session number 3. This session is entitled Systems That Test Reality. My name is Dr. John Carter. I'm the founder of CoreX. I'm a former nuclear submarine captain and now executive coach that works with clients to remove bottlenecks to accelerate growth. So don't be a bottleneck. And I'd like to introduce my partner, JP.
Hey, thank you, John. My name is JP Van Steertegem. I'm a business and executive coach who works with the owners and CEOs of technology companies to help scale their business. Back to you, John.
So let's get started. Let's start with a conversation with something that's perhaps a bit uncomfortable. Most leadership teams measure progress. Very few measure whether the world still matches their plan. We all know this, right? We build dashboards, we track KPIs, we hold regular reviews, been part of plenty of those meetings. And yet organizations still drift to failure while every metric says, hey, we're green across the board, which, by the way, is the corporate version of your doctor saying, your cholesterol is great, except for the part where your heart exploded. So today's session is about that gap. It's not about adding more metrics. It's about measuring the right reality. So JP, let's ground this with a real example.
All right, so let's go straight to one everybody knows, right? And it's the Boeing and the 737 MAX program. This wasn't chaos. This wasn't lack of discipline. This wasn't an absence of dashboards. Metrics existed, cadence existed, execution existed. In fact, if dashboards alone prevented disasters, corporate America would basically be a theme park of perfect decisions. But the wrong signals were being watched.
And that's the key point. This wasn't purely a strategy failure. It wasn't purely an engineering failure. It was a measurement and feedback failure. So walk us through the strategic context.
Yes. So the strategic objective was clear. Compete with Airbus on fuel efficiency, minimize pilot retraining costs for airlines, protect market share and margins. So that's rational and that's strategic. Now, here's what they tracked. First, they tracked schedule adherence. Second, cost targets. Third, certification milestones. And then fourth, production throughput. On paper, execution looked really strong. The velocity was there, the financials looked aligned, deadlines were being hit. If you were sitting in a program review, it would have looked disciplined. You'd walk out thinking, wow, these people have their act together. Probably followed by the universal corporate phrase, great meeting, everyone. Let's circle back.
So the organization wasn't asleep at all. They were measuring, but they weren't measuring the thing that mattered most. So what went wrong?
Well, critical signals were either aggregated away, interpreted as anomalies, or deferred under schedule pressure. The metrics emphasized program velocity, financial performance. They did not emphasize system level safety behavior, escalation frequency, assumption stress. For example, there was an assumption embedded in the system design that certain software would not activate aggressively under normal conditions. That assumption was never meaningfully stress tested in real world operating contexts. Cadence reinforced delivery, it did not reinforce learning.
Super important. So let's underline that. Cadence reinforced delivery, not And that's the disease, right? Because cadence feels productive. Meetings are happening, are happening, scorecards are moving along, slides advance. Everyone says, great progress, everyone. Just corporate for we're moving very quickly. We're just not entirely sure where. A lot of thrust, maybe not enough vector. But no one is asking, is the system still behaving the way we assumed it would?
Exactly. Execution metrics answer one question: are we doing the work? Assumption metrics answer a different question: is the bet still valid? And strategy at its core is a set of bets. Some organizations test their bets. Others discover the answer during a congressional hearing.
So let's translate this into your business. Most leadership dashboards track things like revenue, gross margin, utilization, the pipeline, the SLA adherence, on time delivery, all execution metric. They tell you how fast you're moving. They do not tell you whether you're still moving in the right direction. So here's the distinction in execution metrics. Are we doing what we said we would do? Assumption metrics are the conditions that justified our plan still true? So let me make this concrete. If your strategy assumes, for example, customers value bundled pricing, your service model scales at 65% utilization, churn will stay under 5%, and a new offering will drive 20% attach rate. Where are those assumptions being tested? Not reported, tested. Because a dashboard can say everything is green right up until reality files a bug report.
And here's the trap: dashboards can create false confidence. When everything is green, leaders relax. But green execution metrics can hide a red strategic reality. Cadence can accelerate the wrong outcome. If you're reviewing delivery every week, but reviewing assumptions once a year, you are structurally biased toward blind acceleration, which in business is a lot like driving faster because the GPS hasn't updated yet.
So, what do we introduce instead? Well, we introduce a quarterly assumptions review. Simple, 60 minutes. That's it. There's four questions. What must be true for our strategy to work? Is it still true? What evidence do we have that it's still true? And what changes if it isn't true? This is not a performance meeting. It's a reality testing meeting. You're not reviewing tasks. You're reviewing the bet that you're making on your strategy.
And here's where this becomes powerful. Assumption metrics might include escalation frequency trends, customer behavior shifts, pricing resistant patterns, churn by cohort, demand signals in new segments, cost structure drift, hiring quality decay, sales cycle elongation. Those are system behavior indicators. They tell you whether the machine is behaving as designed. Because the most dangerous thing in business is when the machine keeps running smoothly while the strategy underneath it quietly breaks.
I love that. So let's return to the example. Boeing had regular reviews. They had their KPIs and their milestone. What they didn't have were metrics that asked, is the system still safe under real world conditions? That's the danger of execution only metrics. They tell you how fast you're moving, not whether the path is still sound.
And this applies at every scale: startup, mid market, enterprise. If cadence reinforces speed but not learning, drift becomes inevitable.
Indeed. So here's your takeaway. This week, identify one assumption your strategy depends on. Not a goal, not a KPI, but an assumption. Now ask, what metric would tell us if that assumption starts breaking? Tracking that. Because leadership's not about accelerating execution. It's about testing reality fast enough to avoid accelerating into a wall. In our next session, we'll build this into your operating rhythm. For now, ask yourself, are you measuring motion or are you measuring truth? In conclusion, I'd like to thank you for listening to our Why Strategies Fail webinar session number 3, entitled Systems That Test Reality. Again, my name is Dr. John Carter, founder of CoreX, a former nuclear submarine captain, and now executive coach that works with my clients to remove bottlenecks to accelerate growth. So don't be a bottleneck. And my partner, JP.
And I'm JP Van Steegem, business and executive coach, working with the owners and CEOs of technology firms to help them grow their business. Thank you.
Thank you.